Donald Trump had a rally over the weekend in Pennsylvania, where, of course, he's trying to garner support for Dr. Oz, whose campaign really needs some support, not going so well against John Fetterman. And there's some interesting moments to discuss from this rally. It was also notably Trump's first chance in a rally setting to address the FBI raid. So this is his first rally since the FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago. So an interesting response there, as well as a chance for Trump to respond to Biden's somewhat epic, in my opinion, and historic speech about the threat that the MAGA movement poses to democracy. So we'll get into all those moments, as well as Trump doing a very interesting and childish attack against John Fetterman. But I wanted to kind of squeeze into this segment because I didn't want to make a whole segment out of this news, even though it is significant, and I want to talk about it real quick because it's related to Trump. So a federal judge on Monday authorized the appointment of a special master to review records seized from former President Donald Trump's Florida residence by the FBI in a raid last month, a move that had been sought by his lawyer. So pretty much, just to kind of quickly summarize, then we're jumping into those clips. Trump's lawyers attempted to kind of halt the process a little bit of the DOJ reviewing these records by getting this special master appointed, getting a judge to approve a special master, a third independent kind of party to look over this evidence and the stuff that the FBI gathered in that raid and see if any of it is privileged, if any of it can't be looked at in this investigation. And so while that's going on, it is halting the DOJ's efforts in a way. And so that is notable and a little bit of a success there for Trump's team, which obviously I'm not even opposed to. Let them try everything. I think justice will be served in this case in the end. So that happened. And then now here is Trump at the rally in Pennsylvania over the weekend. And the funny thing is, Biden gave this speech, and this is Trump responding to Biden's speech. And the big complaint from people on the right was, Biden said all of these mean things and it hurt our feelings. And it was so divisive. Well, Biden was just accurately describing the reality in our country right now. And so then Trump pretends that MAGA was called the enemy of the state, and he flips it around and goes, no, Biden's the enemy of the state. Nice.
As you know, this week, Joe Biden came to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to give the most vicious, hateful, and divisive speech ever delivered by an American president.
And as has been pointed out, the last person who gets to complain about divisive speeches is Donald Trump.
Vilifying 75 million citizens plus another probably 75 to 150. If we want to be accurate about.
So I don't know what he means by that. Of course, 75, he's pulling from the amount of people who voted for him. That's not the MAGA movement that's being talked about. There's tons of more moderate voters who don't like Trump's January 6th stuff who still voted for him in the 2020 election. But setting that aside, why he thinks it's double that, 150, I think he said, makes no sense.
About it as threats to democracy and as enemies of the state. You're all enemies of the state.
And Biden never said that. He did say threat to democracy, not enemy of the state.
He's an enemy of the state. You want to know the truth? The enemy of the state is him and the group that control him, which is circling around him. Do this, do that, Joe. Do this, Joe, right? I think. Okay. So it's really Biden who's the enemy of the state. And just to be clear, Biden doesn't think, and I don't think, that MAGA Republicans are the enemy of the state. That has a very specific connotation. What is clear is that they're against our democratic process. If you want to overturn a free and fair election, if you want to revoke the voice of the people by saying, no, Trump should have stayed in power even though the election went the other way, then yeah, you're against our democracy. If that hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, stop being against democracy, and then we won't have to say that. And then here is Trump going after John Fetterman, of course, the person who looks likely to defeat Dr. Oz in this election. And of course, Trump has endorsed Dr. Oz, and it's a pretty surface level, childish critique of John Fetterman. But Fetterman got it, and he got it in a landslide. And this guy's a disaster. He comes in with a sweatsuit on. I've never seen him wear a suit. A dirty, dirty, dirty sweatsuit. It's really disgusting. I'm a clean freak. I'm a clean freak, Oz. I don't like those dirty sweatsuits. They're disgusting. Fetterman may dress like a teenager getting high in his parents' basement, but he's a raging lunatic hell-bent on springing hardened criminals out of jail in the middle of the worst crime wave in Pennsylvania history. He wants everybody out of jail. And by the way, he wants to get rid of your police. Fetterman is a defund.
Okay. So, obviously, not being honest there. Fetterman does not want to let all the criminals out of prison, but that is a line that keeps being used. And then finally, he responds to the FBI raiding his home, and it says some quite bizarre descriptions of what the FBI did.
Phony pretext. Getting permission from a highly political magistrate who they handpicked late in the evening, just days before the break-in, and trampled upon my rights and civil liberties as if our country that we love so much were a third world nation. We're like a third world nation. They rifled through the First Lady's closet, drawers, and everything else. And even did a deep and ugly search of the room of my 16-year-old son.
So, can somebody tell me, please, what a deep and ugly search is? Anybody? They just really, they ripped up the carpet, or what does that even mean? Of course, I don't know how much of what he's saying on it is honest. I don't know if they went in Barron's room. And if they did, if they had a warrant for it, then I don't see anything wrong with that. But it is hilarious the way that he tries to articulate this raid to make it sound like something that it really wasn't. Because we know what a raid-ish would look like. Searching around, rifling through stuff. But describing it as just deep and ugly I don't have a clear image that comes to mind when someone says that about an FBI raid. But last moment I want to show you, that's everything from the rally, but this clip went viral of Trump calling Democrats fascist. And it's funny because, again, like I mentioned earlier, the big explosion on the right has been, oh my gosh, Biden called the MAGA movement fascistic. Biden said we're against democracy. This is horrible. I literally saw people on Twitter who are on the right comparing themselves to the Jews in the Holocaust. Yes. Pretending like they're about to experience what Jewish people in Germany experienced. Completely absurd. All Biden was doing was accurately assessing and articulating the threat to our democracy. We're not saying I don't even want to say all the things they're pretending that Biden said. But all that we're trying to kind of bring to the surface and bring to the public conversation is that, yes, Trump and the movement that he represents absolutely does not respect our democratic process. If that hurts your feelings to hear, then stand up against it. Don't be one of the people who is doing that. It's really simple. But what's funny is them pretending like it is just so outrageous for Biden to call the MAGA movement fascistic, that it has, fascist characteristics, is hilarious because Trump has done it before too.
You know all about that. Take away our energy, if you can believe it. No fossil fuel.
This is in 2020.
Destroy our Second Amendment, attack the right to life, and replace American freedom with left-wing fascism.
Had a hard time getting out there. Fascism.
Left wing. We're going left-wing all the way. Fascists. They are fascists. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them, but they're getting closer and closer. We have to win this election.
So that was almost exactly what Biden said. Not all of the movement, but the MAGA movement has fascistic characteristics. And we'll get to a moment later in the show where Congressman Jamie Raskin defends those comments and says, listen, if you're promoting political violence and against our democratic process, rejecting election results, yes, you're making it clear what you stand for, and we should be able to call you out for that. And that is just telling the honest truth. But if you're going to pretend like just the usage of that word is so outrageous, then you have to take issue with Trump also having said it, which I don't think anyone isn't allowed to say it, and my feelings aren't going to be destroyed, but I would like people to use it in the correct context. And I obviously believe that Trump was not using it in the correct context, whereas Biden pointing out against democracy, lots of promoting of political violence, that is kind of characteristics of a fascist movement. Now, they're not fully fascist, they haven't authoritarian takeover, all that type of stuff, but it is kind of these early indicators because of the actions that they're taking. We're not making them be against our democratic process. They're choosing to do so.